We're joined now by Dr. Meriem Aoun, our small grains extension pathologist. And Dr. Aoun, let's talk a little bit about the wheat crop this year. We see that it is looking pretty good, and you're also seeing the same thing, right?
Yes, it's looking way better compared to the last two seasons. The wheat is looking good in most part of Oklahoma.
So how does that translate in terms of wheat diseases, fungus, viruses, all the things that you study?
Yeah, they usually go together. So if we have high yield potential, that's usually when we see high disease pressure. So as the environmental conditions are conducive for the wheat growth, they are also conducive for more fungal diseases as well.
So at this stage in the growing season, what are you seeing in terms of disease pressure?
So in terms of disease pressure, it's very low right now. We got yesterday a few samples from Lahoma variety trial that were infected with Septoria blotch. It's a fungus. Here in Stillwater, we are seeing symptoms of virus, the wheat soil-borne mosaic virus and wheat spindle silk mosaic virus. So that was late in February, early March, start rating some varieties for their reaction to this virus complex. So if the weather conditions continue to be conducive, then we may have rust this year in Oklahoma.
So with these warm, windy days, it's more likely to spread north?
Yes, so with the wind and with the environment being conducive, we may have the inoculum coming here to Oklahoma.
So the pressure's low at this stage, but in terms of management guidance, we don't want to scare anybody, but it is important to be scouting your fields.
Yes, it is important to start scouting the field, especially that we have good moisture over the last months, and weather is conducive for diseases, so it would be a good idea to look at the field and see what's happening there.
And what's the best way to get samples into you here on the campus in Stillwater?
We have county educators, so you can take the samples or just send it to the plant disease and insect diagnostic lab at Oklahoma State University.
Let's talk about your new fact sheet and this kind of new issue that you're keeping an eye on recently. Tell us about the fact sheet and what you've been seeing.
So the fact sheet that I got recently is on Septoria nodorum blotch. So this is a somehow more recent disease that we see in Oklahoma. So over the last 5 years, we start seeing an increase in incidence and severity of this disease. Last year in 2023, after the rain that we got late in April and early May, that's when we saw it in many fields in Oklahoma. So it usually appears when the temperatures are warm, between 68 to 81 Fahrenheit, and also when we have moisture. And that was the condition that we had late in April and early and in May last year. So this is something new that we are dealing with. Most of the varieties look susceptible to this disease. So that's something that we are watching closely in these years and see how the disease is progressing in the state, and do some research as well on this disease.
So what does this disease look like? How can I identify it in my field?
So the disease usually starts on the lower leaves, and you can see dark lesions, brown lesions, and they are usually surrounded by yellow halo. That's because of the toxins produced by the fungus. And then later, as the lesions start to expand, we see more grayish center. And as the disease progresses, you will, like the lesions, they will coalesce and then the leaf will die.
How is this newer disease different from some of the other diseases that you've mentioned?
The symptoms can be confused sometimes with Septoria blotch. So because they usually, they can co-occur together, and the symptoms are very similar. So, but Septoria blotch usually occur when the temperatures are cooler, usually 50 to 68 Fahrenheit. But Septoria nodorum blotch, it occurs when the temperatures are warmer, between 68 and 81 Fahrenheit. That's the optimal temperature for the disease.
And are there some management options available?
Yes. For Septoria nodorum blotch, like the fungi that works also with Septoria triticale blotch, they usually also work with Septoria nodorum blotch. So we have many fungicides that are available. For cultural practices, we can do much because we cannot do tillage here. We are in a no-till system in Oklahoma, so that will leave a lot of crop residue in the field, and that increase the inoculum in the next season. But we can control volunteer weed and some wild grasses that can be alternative hosts for this fungus.
So it is important for growers who maybe spot something unusual in their field to really engage with the county extension office and send that sample in, because that information can help with future variety development.
Yeah, so we want to understand what do we have. Right. So that will help the grower to understand what they are dealing with, so they can know if they are going to apply fungicide or not. Also, it will help us to understand what is the genetic and virulence variation of this pathogen that we have in the field, and that will guide us in terms of variety development.
Okay, well, some great information. Thank you very much, Meriem. And for a link to the new fact sheet, just go to sunup.okstate.edu.